welcome to our presentation of how to regenerate your health with food. I am Dan Dolgen. I am the CEO and co-founder of Eaton Hemp. We are an organic brand of hemp seed snacks based in upstate New York. And today I'm really excited to be joined by a renowned doctor, scientist, author of the New York Times bestseller, Eat to Beat Disease with Dr. William Li. So, Dr. Li, it's great to have you here, and really excited to have this chat with you.
Yeah, great to see you, Dan. Thanks for the conversation.
Excellent. So before we kind of jump in and talk about some of the topics in the book, I'd love to know more about your work, how you came to kind of the idea for this book, and kind of more of your background.
Yeah, so my background, I'm a physician, internal medicine. And what that means is that I take care of men and women, young and old, healthy and sick. And I've always been really focused on health and what are the levers that we all have under our control to be able to protect, maintain, and restore our health. And I'm also a research scientist, so I have a 30-year background in something called vascular biology. That basically means that I study blood vessels. In fact, specifically a field called angiogenesis. Sounds complicated, but pretty simple. Angio is Greek for blood, and blood vessels. Genesis, the growth of. So I study how blood vessels grow. And the reason I really got into food as medicine and empowerment using nutrition is because I spent 3 decades involved with drug development and biotechnology, and have come up actually with 42 FDA approved treatments for cancer, complications of diabetes, and even blindness, vision loss. What I always realized was that the most sophisticated treatments, the really powerful stuff, was all treating the horse after it already had got out of the barn, and that the real opportunity to help people was prevention. But if you're going to talk about prevention, you really can't talk about expensive drugs that can have side effects. You have to come up with a different tool in your toolbox, and that's really where food came into play. And I guess if I could say my secret weapon was because I actually had been involved very deeply with developing the tools, the measurement systems, the testing systems for biotechnology treatments for disease. So I had access to these things, and then we can use them to actually study foods in the same system used to develop drugs. And all of a sudden, it's sort of a redefinition of food as medicine. And my jaw dropped when I started to realize time and time and time again that actually in many cases the foods could easily hold their own against drugs when you test them side by side, and in some cases they were even more powerful. So that kind of gave me this sort of awe-inspiring respect for what Mother Nature brings to the table. Wrote a book, brought it out. It's kind of my mission to get people to really rethink what they know about health and to realize that they can do something about it themselves.
Excellent. Yeah, I've read the book, and it's just so enlightening and illuminating. And it's the type of book that I've read a lot of these kind of books on functional medicine and prescriptive diets and things like that. And I've been waiting for someone to write a book like you have that, first of all, has all the background and knowledge and expertise, but also synthesizes it in a way that it isn't, forcing a specific food or diet onto somebody. You're giving everyone all the tools, and you're not burying the footnotes. You're not burying all the research and the the expertise that's kind of gone into this into footnotes. You're laying it all out there. What universities did what study, how many people were involved, what the results were, and it makes people, I think, really feel comfortable. And then of course all the 5x5x5, which is helped me. I've got my bag of walnuts next to me and my blueberries, and so purple potatoes. We're all about that here. So really appreciate everything you've kind of put into the book. So
Yeah, no, it is true that complicated stuff can be accessible to virtually anyone if you have somebody that can actually explain things simply.
that's right.
And that's one of the things that I really think is a part of my role is to take these complex things that are at the forefront of research and see if I can kind of help people decipher what they mean.
Yeah, and I think you did just that. So congratulations on the book and all the the success. So, my history here is, I come from a background very far from farming. I worked in the national security world. I worked in the intelligence community, and I left the government in around 2010. Was doing some consulting and had the good fortune to meet my now business partner who had bought this farm. It was a dilapidated dairy farm. He transitioned it into one of the largest working organic farms in New York State. And we were involved in a project together trying to get a medical marijuana license, which didn't come to fruition, but we loved working together. And he was really interested in hemp initially as a cover crop, because hemp grows fast and has broad brush leaves, and it's great for organic farming. And at the time, hemp was just kind of starting to be more legalized in different states. And he asked if I could help him use my government background to get a license to grow hemp, which we did. We got the first license in New York, so we really are the epicenter for the hemp industry. And as we started to grow the crop here and learn more about it, yes, it was a good organic cover crop, but we really started to look into the nutritional aspect, which, because hemp was illegal for 80 years in the United States, a lot of that research was lost, and a lot of what it used to be used as an ancient medicine was lost. And so we started looking into hemp and really seeing that it was something that could be the next superfood. And we decided to launch our brand, which is Eaton Hemp, around the nutrition and the superfood aspects of the hemp seed itself. So we now have a number of products. We do hemp hearts, hemp seeds, a chocolate bar, a superfood chocolate bar we just came out with, which I'll talk about later. But I wanted to talk about the hemp seeds in specific, and some of the benefits that they provide. I know in your book you talk a lot about inflammation, and how omega-3s and soluble and insoluble fiber can kind of help with inflammation, and maybe you can kind of expand a little bit more about inflammation, about maybe some of the properties that the hemp seeds could help fight with that specific issue.
Yeah, well, look, you have a very interesting background, and it means that you're bringing something very different to the table, which actually is really what I think the field of food as medicine is all about, is different people bringing their own skill sets and making something that was sort of maybe on the fringes at one point really into more mainstream, and putting intelligent efforts into it. So, you're talking about inflammation, and a lot of people have heard of it, but may not know exactly what inflammation is. Inflammation is a process in our body that's part of our immune system, and it's really, really important for us to actually heal. So anybody who's ever had a paper cut or scraped their knee, or had a cut or surgery, afterwards you have this little swelling around wherever the injury is, little red, maybe a little bit of fluid, and that's all inflammation, and it's part of your immune system sending out frontline workers to guard against invaders. And this inflammatory response is really kind of like a intercept and destroy any organisms that are actually trying to get into your skin or under your skin, so to speak. And it's really important for healing. The key with your immune system and inflammation is that you don't want it to last very long. You want it to actually calm down after the danger is over, and you don't want, or when it's done, when its purpose is done, you don't want it to actually keep on smoldering and staying there, because chronic inflammation is actually where a lot of health problems are. Everything from heart disease to diabetes to dementia to obesity to even cancer. These are all characterized, some of the worst diseases that we deal with are characterized by chronic inflammation. How do a simple kind of analogy to this for inflammation is, you're out camping with your friends, and you're building a nice campfire, and you're cooking your stuff or making your s'mores or whatever you're doing, and it's late in the night, so you're having to turn in, and you put your campfire out, and that way you wake up the next day and you do it all over again. That's inflammation. You start the fire, warm it up yourself, and then you can put it out and go to bed. Chronic inflammation is like, you don't put the fire out, and it jumps right out of your fire pit, and it gets into the woods, and it starts to race through the woods and start to burn everything. That's chronic inflammation. So one of the things about many types of nuts and seeds, including hemp seeds, is that hemp and other types of seeds contain phytic acid, contain polyunsaturated omega-3 plant-based omega-3s. These natural bioactives, as we call them, they're biologically active things that are found in plants like hemp seeds, actually will lower inflammation. This is true in the lab, it's true in animal studies, it's true in humans as well. And so it's not a magic bullet, but it's actually a part of kind of a more balanced approach to trying to right size normally an important process in the body like inflammation.
Yeah. Yeah, I have eosinophilic esophagitis, which is I know a mouthful.
Ah,
I'm sure you're familiar with it. And it came about. The timing was I had a little heart issue, and I had to go on a PICC line for 6 weeks. And I'm assuming my entire gut biome was kind of blown up and reconstituted. At the time, I wasn't told to take probiotics or prebiotics or even what to eat. It was just assumed, okay, we take the PICC line out and you're good to go. And that's when my esophagus issues started to happen. Um, and I've noticed kind of since I've kind of started on the farming work that it's been a lot less pronounced. And I feel like I could attribute that to a more relaxed lifestyle outdoors, but also my diet and everything that I'm eating. I'm obviously consuming a lot more hemp and just being a lot more conscious about what I put into my system, and it certainly made a difference. So I think food as medicine has definitely become a mantra that we use here at Eaton Hemp. The omega-3 thing for sure is something we talk about a lot because hemp seeds have that 3-to-1 balance of omega-3s to 6s, which makes it, as we understand, the only vegan alternative to fish oil. So maybe you can talk a little bit about what that balance means. We hear a lot about omega-3s and omega-6s, and I think you've talked about in your book too much of one could be counterbalance the other, and maybe you can elaborate on kind of the balance and kind of what why that means a perfect a 3-to-1 balance.
yeah, well, so I mean, again, this is sort of a complicated area, but to make it really as simple as possible, omega-3s just have been found to be a really, really helpful fat. Most of us think about, fat, like growing up, associating fat with butter or, a cheese or some other unhealthy things,
Mhm.
the rind on a steak kind of thing. But in fact, fat is actually quite important. And one of my new areas is really in metabolism. And omega-3s happens to be one of the healthy fats of nature. And in fact, all omega-3s have sort of at its origin level a plant-based source. So even fish, the oily fish, tuna, salmon, sardines, anchovies, so on and so forth, those omega-3s originally came from phytoplankton, which is kind of like the plant of the sea,
Right.
that generates these healthy fats, and then the fish eat them up the food chain, and so you accumulate them in the fish that we catch and eat.
Yeah.
On land, the omega-3s really come from a precursor, linoleic acid, that actually then our body can actually convert into omega-3s. And so we know it's good for you. We know it lowers inflammation. We know omega-3s actually help protect your stem cells, help our circulation work better, has an antioxidant property, and also is helpful for immunity and lowers inflammation. But omega-3s are, not the only omegas and polyunsaturated fatty acids out there. As you might imagine, they are also made with other omegas, and one of those omegas is omega-6s. So, um, and there are other omega, you fill in the blank on the number after it.
Right. Right.
Three, it could be six, it could be 10, it could be 12. Key thing is most of the research has been done to show the benefits of omega-3s.
Mhm.
Now, omega-6s, which actually coexist with omega-3s and are often made hand in hand, but in different ratios. When there's too much omega-6, actually, it's not so good for you. And so you're looking for everything in nature is all about balance. If you go back to sort of ancient Chinese medicine or healing cultures, even back to the ancient Greeks, everything about health is all about balance. You want not too much. I mean, even Goldilocks, right? Not too
Right.
hot, not too cold, just right.
Right.
And I think for omega-3s and omega-6s, this 1-to-3 ratio ish is really the one of the one of the formulas for a good, healthy balance. Omega-6s, by the way, when they're in excess, can actually spark inflammation, which is what we don't want.
Right.
And so omega-3s and omega-6, they both play a role, but you want to have them in the right balance. I like to give people kind of easy examples
Yeah,
for
yeah.
things, but like you have, you're cooking a recipe and it says, add salt and pepper to taste, right?
Mhm.
If you just added a ton of salt and not so much pepper, not going to taste great. If you had too much pepper, not enough salt, it's not going to taste great. You want to have just sort of like the right balance of both.
Right.
And I think that's really how to think about omega 3s and omega 6s.
Yeah, in the Western diet, I know, and you've talked about this, that we tend to be high on omega sixes, so it's really balancing that out. And like we said, I think hemp seeds are certainly something that we're trying to. Our mission is to restore hemp to its rightful place well, we say the American pantry, but really the global pantry. And it's just that in the U.S. it's been long forgotten, and it's great that it's now kind of getting its due. And one of the things that we just launched, which we're super proud of, which I'll hold up here, are we call these our superfood chocolate bars, and they are hemp seeds with enrobed vegan 72% dark chocolate.
Hmm.
And so three of the flavors we use the actual whole seed itself, which has the outer shell on it, which gives it the fiber, not unlike brown rice and white rice. And then one of the flavors, which we call Unicorn Delight, has hemp hearts. And hemp hearts are the inner soft core of the hemp seed. A lot of people are more familiar with hemp hearts. They are, we sell them here as well. Our hemp hearts are, very, very kind of soluble in water, so you can put them into a smoothie, and they're great for, for adding plant-based protein into, anything, kind of mostly breakfast foods, but really I put them on salads or soups, things like that. The seeds are more of a crunch factor, and we make a number of different toasted seeds. Like these are our Himalayan salt toasted seeds. We have a maple cinnamon and a spicy barbecue. So we took all those products that we make as kind of bulk ingredients, and we decided to make this grab and go healthy version of a chocolate bar. We sort of call it our vegan version of a Nestle Crunch. So people who loved the idea of kind of the that flavor and texture. We took that and just we made it taste great, but we also made it a lot healthier. So I know you talk a lot about dark chocolate and it being kind of one of those superfoods throughout the book, and it's one of those things that I think touches upon, angiogenesis, inflammation, DNA, and maybe you can talk to a little bit more about dark chocolate and kind of all the benefits that brings as well.
Well, I mean, chocolate, um, a lot of people love chocolate. It's, it's hard to find somebody who really doesn't like chocolate. And there's a reason for that. Actually, our brain has a receptor on our cells that actually likes chocolate. So having a little bit makes us want to have a little bit more. Chocolate is a plant-based food. Okay, a lot of people don't realize that. If you get pure dark chocolate, it comes from a plant. A few months ago, a friend of mine sent me a box from Florida that contained cacao pods.
Hmm.
They're hard. They're kind of shaped like a football, a little bit smaller than a football. And if you were to shake it around, came off a cacao, a tree that grows the stuff that makes chocolate. You could hear this stuff sloshing around. It's kind of heavy. So I slid it open it up. Amazing stuff in there. They had these little seed pods that were like the size of chestnuts with a little white pericarp, which is the fruit, and it was kind of sweet and sour. They're actually really delicious. And that seed inside there is exactly where cacao comes from, which is actually used and fermented to create dark chocolate. So the darker it is the more pure the actual cacao plant-based stuff is in there. And so what's in there is a proanthocyanidin. These are natural chemicals, and there's lots and lots of different types of bioactives in there. But the bioactives actually do a lot of things. They help your circulation. They coax out stem cells to help regenerate your organs from the inside out. There's fiber actually in dark chocolate because the cacao actually has its own fiber. And it actually is a probiotic and can feed your gut microbiome. Dark chocolate is a powerful antioxidant, protects cells from these sort of chemical energy bursts that can be harmful. That's oxidative stress. And everyone gets a little stressed out. And this actually protects our DNA. And it turns out that dark chocolate, partly because it actually helps our gut microbiome, activates our immune system because our gut bacteria and our immune system live side by side. They're next door neighbors. And a good, healthy gut bacteria fed by prebiotic chocolate communicates to your immune system right next door. It's like college roommates
Yeah,
shouting through a paper thin wall, tell the immune system to go do its thing. And then your immune system is actually, but here's the other cool thing is that dark chocolate is also anti-inflammatory. So what you've just described really is taking a plant-based food, um, cacao made in the form of dark chocolate, and combining it with hemp seeds, which is another natural product. And by the way, a lot of people don't realize this, but hemp, there's a lot of association with hemp that people think about, contemporary hemp uses. Hemp goes back tens of thousands of years in human existence because it was actually originally grown to make fiber for clothes.
that's
You
right.
know,
That's
so the ancient cave dwellers actually that were wearing loincloths and coverings, they were weaving those things out of hemp, and not surprisingly, they were really resourceful and picked out the seeds as well to be able to use for different things. So what you're describing is really kind of taking ancient secrets and putting them back together in a combination to be able to bring something that delightful to the public.
That's right. Yeah, and it's also the a lot of people when they hear hemp now it gets wrapped up in that perception of marijuana or even CBD, and hemp seeds have neither THC nor CBD. It can't get you high. It's you could be an infant or a pregnant mom or a senior citizen, and it all it has a positive impact on the body, and there's not a limit to the consumption. You could have as much as you want. I love, by the way, in the book your dosing chart where it shows kind of a dosage of food and what an equivalent dosage of that medicine that might do the same impact that that food might have would be. So and I think that's a really interesting and strong chart to show. So, we're excited about what we've put out, and I think it's a unique thing to, I don't see any other folks doing the hemp seeds and chocolate bars together. So it's great to sort of, as you said, combine the powers of those two food, and and really get that out into the market. So but look, I know we can talk all day on this stuff. There's so much in this book to unpack. But I know we are short on time, so I figured, why don't you let people know where they can buy the book and where they can kind of learn more about the work you're doing. And I know you do these master courses and seminars and things like that. So let us know how folks can follow you.
Yeah, well, I mean, anyone who's listening to this or watching this that actually wants to learn more, one of the things that I do is I put out a newsletter. I do free master classes. I try to get new information out about research because literally it's like drinking out of a fire hydrant. There's so much new information about food and our health and how they combine together. So anybody who wants to learn more, come to my website at drwilliamlee.com, drwilliamlee.com. And I'm also on all the social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. My handle is at Dr. William Lee Li. And by the way, if you come over to my website right now, you can gain access to a free resource that goes even deeper into the content and information we talked about today. My mission is really to try to get the word out about how foods can be healthy. And Dan, the things that you just showed and we talked about is so interesting. I thank you very much for doing what you do, and looking forward to continue to work together.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. And we are Eaton Hemp, Eaton, and you could follow us on eatonhemp.com. And our Instagram handle is also at Eaton Hemp. So look forward to getting this out there and working more with you with Dr. Lee. So thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan.